Mike's a managing director of Highlands Consulting in Gilbert, Arizona, and was previously vice president of operations at Helii, which was one of the companies mentioned by Rebecca that's doing a lot of interesting stuff in algae and regenerative agriculture. So here we go. Mike Lamont. Green is the advance, and this is a pointer.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and there's a monitor there.
Oh, there is a monitor there. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Well, yeah, as Jim said, I am Mike Lamont, and I'm here to talk about soil health. So I think soil health is very interesting because it's one of those topics that if you walk up to someone and you say, do you want good soil health? The answer is always yes. No one will ever tell you that they want crappy soil health so their plants can be sickly. But at the very same time, if you ask those same people, well, how much will you invest in soil health? Or even do you want to learn anything about soil health so that your soil can be better? You get a lot of mixed answers and a lot of no's. They're not interested in that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First off, let's define what soil health is. So soil health is the living interactions in your soil. So it's the bacteria, it's the algae, it's the nematodes that are living in your soil, interacting with your plants, making it healthy and strong. As you can see from the chart that's up there, they're very, very small. So if you have healthy soil, in just a cubic meter of soil, you will have 10 to the 13 of bacteria, and you'll have 10 to the 10 of algae. All right, that is a tremendous amount of living creatures in that space. And next up, I put a picture from Dr. James White of Rutgers University, who does a lot of amazing work on bacteria and plant interactions. And so what we're looking at here is a root of Bermuda grass, which is important to me because I live in Arizona, and it's the only thing that grows in the summertime in Arizona. Coming off to the side, you have root hairs. But the super cool part is all of the dark spots in those root hairs are Pseudomonas bacteria. So that bacteria is somewhere out in the soil. It travels through the soil, goes inside the plant root, gives up its nutrients that the plant uses. And then, once it's released nutrients, it leaves the plant, physically leaves the plant, and goes back out into the soil, collects nutrients, and the same thing happens over and over and over. So that's why I describe it as an intense symbiosis. There's not a little interaction. It's so interactive, they're physically going inside each other. So that is an easy segue into why soil health matters. Because the bacteria in your soil, that's what's doing phosphate solubilization. So you have a bunch of phosphate in your soil that isn't any good for your plants. Well, the bacteria are taking that, making it good for your plant. Same thing with nitrogen fixation. They're fixing nitrogen so you can reduce your fertilizer usage. In fact, they're literally making the amount of nitrogen that your plants want. They don't have excess nitrogen fixation. We just covered the nutrient movement, and it's been demonstrated repeatedly that if you have healthy soil, the plants growing in that soil have increased resistance to disease, they have increased tolerance to stress, but that's not where we are today. And the reason is because it's historically overlooked. I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. I planted soybeans, I planted corn, and it really is true that if you take 10 pounds of fertilizer, you put it on your dirt, you get 10 more bushels of corn. So it's a very simple formula and very easy to become fixated on if I need more crop, if I need more fruit, just dump on more fertilizer and everything will be fine. But there's a very strong problem with that methodology. Initially, it does work because you have microbes in your soil. But over time, what happens is you get the picture on the left. You have very dense, compact soil, doesn't have a lot of life, doesn't have good water or moisture penetration, and it supports, not a dead plant, but it doesn't support a healthy plant. You know, I like to akin it to my daughter, who's the sophomore quarterback of the girls' flag football team in high school. I could feed her just ho-hos all day long, and she would not die in 2 days. But over time, what's going to happen is she's going to get weaker, her mind won't be as sharp, She won't be as strong, she won't be as quick, she's gonna get tired faster. It's the same kind of thing that happens to your crops and your plants as you try to grow them in depleted soil. They do struggle through, but they just could be so much better. Oh yeah, the one thing I wanted to point out there is it's pretty commonly accepted that about 1/3 of the world's soil is degraded, either moderately or severely. And obviously there's a second component to fertilizer. There's a lot of fertilizer runoff. I spent 13 years in Ohio in the Ohio River Valley. All of that water ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, in the Gulf of Mexico, there's what's called the dead zone. It's over 6,500 square miles, about 1,000 square miles larger than Connecticut, where nothing can live, nothing can survive ever because there's no oxygen. The reason is fertilizer runoff. And here a little bit closer to you guys, obviously that is a turtle, and it has a whole bunch of growth tumors. And if you believe the folks at Duke, the reason for those tumors is because of fertilizer runoff. And the tumors on the outside are ugly, but the tumors on the inside kill the turtles. And so those are two very bad side effects of a lot of fertilizer usage and not caring enough about soil health. So I want to touch on, just for a second, a couple components about soil health technology. And now I'm also going to take a drink of water. Soil health technology really has two components. One is the biologicals, the life that I'm talking about right now. The second component is the measurement of characteristics in your soil. So that's things like organic carbon, active carbon, pH, water holding capacity. And that picture on the bottom right there, that is a very simple experiment to evaluate your water holding capacity. You simply take your dirt, you put in a certain amount of water, and you see how much runs through. I also wanted to point out that the University of Hawaii offers this tool. So you send them some dirt, and they have 13 or 15 points, something like that, that they will analyze for you, and they will tell you and give you a rating of the health of your soil. That's very important because that gives you a formula, that gives you a scorecard that you can use to improve the health of your soil. Now I'm going to spend a couple slides talking about, can you really change your soil health? Are there logical, cost-effective ways to change the health of your soil? And I say cost-effective because when I was about a 5th grader, my dad's farm went broke. And so they sold the house, they sold the doghouse that my brother and I built, the whole thing. And my dad moved to a different place, rebuilt himself, and all that worked out. It became okay. But farming is very difficult. You cannot double the cost of your inputs and expect any farmer to accept that because there's no way they can tolerate that. But here are some examples of companies that right now today are helping farmers improve their crops because they improve the soil and doing it cost effectively. First off, there's a bunch of literature out there, right? So if you look just a little bit, you can find dozens of articles out there. There's a very good one from my friends at Montana State, Hannah, and they go through a whole list of algae, both macroalgae and microalgae, that can be used to improve your soil health and what characteristics it has, like what properties does it improve in your soil. But I'll say lab scale work, because after doing this for 25 years, lab scale work, oftentimes it's great in the lab and you cannot get it to full scale. It just doesn't scale up, it fails. So the first company I'm going to talk about that is currently at commercial scale is a company called Myland. So I think they're interesting for why, because they don't sell products in a jug. They actually sell you a system. It can be a 100-acre system, it can be a 1,000-acre system. And the system sits on your land and you use it as you want it. You walk up to it, you draw the algae out of it, and you apply it to your land. So you don't have any shipping, which obviously shipping is difficult here. So that's cool, they have a system, but what do the results actually look like, or what do they get? And before I go into a lot of detail, I will actually say the results they are getting are a little bit typical of what you see when you apply the right algae to your farmland. You will see a decrease in fertilizer usage, which is what they saw. You will see a decrease in water usage because your land has higher water holding capacity, which is what they saw. You can use less pesticides. because the crops themselves are now more resistant because they're healthier. And obviously, if you're a farmer, what's one of the most important things? It's yield. You also see a yield increase while you see these other beneficial effects to your soil. This is the product Phycoterra that Rebecca mentioned earlier. What we're looking at right here is dirt that is mixed in an agar plate. And then you water it, you let it grow for a few days, and that's what you get. So the little streaks that you see on there, that's bacterial life. That is, well, it's living, it's growing. So this would tell you that this land has some life to it, there's some bacterial activity. So then we took this exact same plot of land, mixed it with Phycoterra, let it sit for 10 days, and then this is what it became. So all the different colors on there that you see, all the different shapes, those are different strains of bacteria, each of them having a different function in your soil, whether it's making phosphate, whether it's fixing nitrogen, whatever it is. That's what that algae is. And another very cool, super cool thing is that big round circle that you see there, that's EPS, or extra polymeric substance. So this bacteria, what it's doing is it's making the EPS. It goes outside the bacteria and it sticks your soil together. So with this, what can happen is you can take sandy soil or less quality soil and actually convert it into higher quality soil. This is how you get higher water holding capacity, because now you have more spaces, you have more pores for your water to collect and sit until your plant draws it back out. Yeah, I mean, like the slide says, that really is activated microbial life. But like I said, I was there when my dad did not do so well on the farm. And so the bottom line really, I would argue, for most farmers, is what is the return on investment? If they give you $1, how much more will they make because of it? So this is a plot from my friends at Sargon Bioscience. And the line you see there is 3-to-1 ROI. So if they gave Sargon $1, they made $3 in extra profit that they didn't make on the control test or on the control plot. And it's very interesting because you can see that 9 of the 11 trials, they made a return of 3-to-1 ROI or higher. So that is successful. That is increasing soil health, that is increasing the crop, increasing the yield so that the farmer can make more profit. The other thing that I love that Sargon does, and because I'm a consultant, I can say whatever I want about any company. The thing I like about Sargon is they understand the algae is a piece, right? You need your humic acid, you need your fulvic acid, and you need your algae to improve your soil health. It's a mixture, no different than what I feed my daughter. She has to have the whole food pyramid. Your soil needs the same thing. And now I want to touch a little bit on the other side. Can soil health be an industry? And the answer is absolutely true. So that revenue, that 9 to 14 billion that you see up there, that's actual revenue that was generated. Whereas we heard Jim earlier discuss that there was over $50 billion in investment. So this doesn't include that. This is actual companies making revenue in the world of soil health. So there's a market that's there. But even more exciting is 10, 11, 12%. That's the compound annual growth expected for the next decade. So if you want to sell algae or microbes into soil health, the market is there for you. And then finally, I want to point out as a business opportunity, and I'll close with something that I think is very unique about Hawaii, which is very exciting. But yeah, so there's a need, because we all have to have food. We have to change the way we produce food. There's a market, there's growth, and there's only a few companies out there today that are doing this. There's only a few companies that have a viable product. Now, on the flip side, and one of the negative things, there's a lot of companies that have a crappy product, that they will say it does something and it doesn't. So that has actually led to some reluctance in the farming industry to try products like this because they've been burned. But there's ways to figure that out. There's trials you can do, and so that can be handled. But finally, agriculture is a difficult market. It's pretty fractured. There's a lot of different users. There's a lot of different suppliers. But I made this Venn diagram off on the right. Well, it has the 4 main categories. You have the cost of the product, your product results, your marketing. But the thing I want to say, although that little red circle where they all overlap, it's true it's not very big, but I think Hawaii has it has incredibly unique opportunity. Because number one, you guys obviously can grow algae. There's a whole bunch of algae companies here that I already work with, and they successfully grow algae for a variety of different products. And number two, you want to increase your agriculture, and you want to improve your soil health. Because from last year's presentations, you saw or you heard that on every island except Maui, there's already soil degradation in Hawaii. So you can have both sides of the coin. You can make the algae, and you can give it to your own farms so that you can produce more food. And with that, thank you for your time.